Okay, and I'll start the broadcast.
Wonderful.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this month. It is on using ebooks, a wonderful topic for us, especially since so many textbooks are going online. We are fortunate enough to have Oliver Cutshaw from the Los Angeles Library interacting with us today. Oliver Cutshaw has been the campus librarian at the Los Angeles Chicago School of Professional Psychology campus since it opened in 2008. During his years developing the Los Angeles campus library, he emphasized the blending of traditional on-ground and online resources. He holds a master's in English literature as well as a master's in library and information science from the University of Maryland, College Park. Prior to working here at the Chicago School, Oliver was a middle manager and preservation librarian at Harvard University from 1997 to 2007. Very impressive work you've done, Oliver. Thank you again for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Ellen, would you mind giving Oliver presenter rights? Just to let everybody know, we are recording this webinar and we will be posting it on the NCAID website. If you do have questions, please post them in the questions box and I will be facilitating the questions for Oliver this evening. So Oliver, whenever you're ready to go, it's all yours.
Okay. Hopefully you all can see my screen now. And this is going to be very hands-on. I just like to talk about what we have and what we can find. One of the great resources we have now are so many ebooks. We literally have access to tens of thousands of ebooks. And of those tens of thousands of ebooks, I would estimate over 10,000 are in the area of psychology or related to the social sciences or closely related to health or mental health services. So there's a ton of material available. Now I want you to understand, because as I said in my description of myself, I came as a preservation librarian. I worked with book and paper materials at Harvard University. So I love traditional book and paper resources. They are my first home, my first love. But these e-resources are great, they're wonderful, and they have the added advantage that we can share them across the nation. So every student at every campus has access to these resources. Every student, whether you're online, blended, on ground, has access to this material. Every faculty member who's affiliated with the school has access to this material. And so it's a welcoming experience, and it also gives 24-hour resource to every person connected with the school. And I want to emphasize that the ebooks, I've had ebook questions from all kinds of people connected with the school. Campus administrators, people working in the admissions office, people working in facilities. So these resources are available for everyone, and you will be rather amazed the more you dig into them just how many we actually have. So I'm going to open up our Southern California little screen. That's because I'm in Southern California, so I'm proud of where I come from. Strangely enough, there are 3 types of ebooks, and I will basically go through quickly the 3 types you're going to see, 3 types of formats. And each format has its advantages and disadvantages and its way of accessing. And then I will also later on go through 3 different ways of accessing ebooks. So I'm going to try to keep it simple, but I want to bring up a little bit of the complexities. Because one of the questions that comes up all the time when people look at ebooks is they go, how come this ebook looks a little different or works a little different than the other one? And so hopefully by the end of this, we'll have some better understanding about why that happens. The first way to access ebooks, and really the easiest, is to, in this centralized search box, click on Books. Now make sure, when you see this drop-down menu, to choose the campus that is the closest campus to you, or if you're an online student, choose any one of the campuses. Because I'm going to tell you a secret. All the ebooks are shared universally across the 3 campuses. So it really wouldn't make any difference if you chose at this point Chicago, Los Angeles, or DC, because they have the same resources no matter which campus you're at. But I'm going to choose Los Angeles because that's where I'm from. So let's take a look at a sample book. And it's nice to have this one because we actually have the physical copy of this book in our library, but we also have an ebook. So you type in a little bit of the title, make sure it says Books, Campus, and click Go. Now you notice this book comes up and you see the nice little picture, and then over here it says View eNow. So you can click on this icon. Now, right beneath it you see a book, but you notice it doesn't have the eView. So not every book in the unified catalog we have here is an ebook. If it doesn't say ebook, then it's not an ebook. Okay? If it does say ebook, then ideally we do have ebook connections. However, that's one of the reasons why you must go through a campus connection, Los Angeles, DC, Chicago, of the TCS. If you search worldwide, which is one of the options, you may see ebooks, but they're not ebooks connected to our databases. We only own access to certain databases. So it's important to make sure that when you do that initial search of book, to choose a campus that is affiliated with us, because all of us want to use our time well and wisely, and so we want to make sure we contact an ebook that we can actually see. Now I'm going to take you through this connection. It says View Now. You get this nice little thing. Notice right over here it says PsychBooks. PsychBooks is one of the databases we have. It's a really good database. It is sponsored by the American Psychological Association, APA. And the APA PsychBooks database has over 2,000 ebooks, and the books are in full text format. And you can read every chapter of every one of those 2,000 books. It's actually over 2,000 these days. So let's click that View ebook. Everyone's going to be prompted to sign in, and I hope you all don't mind that they, even I, when I'm on campus and when you are off campus, are going to have to be prompted to sign in. This is your username and password. Everyone should have one. It's this, generally for most people it's the same as their email username and password. If you don't have this, contact IT and they'll be delighted to set you up with it. So let's hope everything works well now. Ideally it should. I'm connecting. And here we are. And if you notice, it shows you browse the book's contents. Each one of these highlighted areas is, in point of fact, a chapter from the book. So you can see that each chapter you could contact and read individually. So let's just take one here on diagnosis and management of anxiety disorders. If you click on that, you actually see it opens up, as we work here, a PDF, and you will be able to read the entire book. Now, what's nice about this APA PsychBook database is that each chapter is its own unique PDF. You notice right over here, I could email those, I could print this out, I could save it, I can email it to a colleague, I could do almost anything I want. So the great thing about the PsychBooks is that by each chapter being its own PDF, you have a maximum amount of flexibility. Now, it does also have a drawback, and the drawback is you can't really easily see the whole book at once. It's not a kind of Kindle experience, because if you could read one chapter at a time, that's fine, but you kind of would have to go back and forth between the site. So let's go back now to our initial page. So you notice that this, one thing I wanted to point out earlier is it says American Psychological Association. So many of the APA psych books are in point of fact the publications of the American Psychological Association. I do want to caution us all about one thing, because people always ask immediately after I tell people that, they go, well, what about the publication manual? It's like, no, the publication manual is not one of the psych books. They decide which books they wish to put up. The vast majority of the books now published and published in the last 20 years by the American Psychological Association are now ebooks and are fully available. But there are a few titles, partly because of the publisher's decision, partly because of the author's decision, that are not available in full text format. And those one will have to generally purchase or figure out how they want to do. But that's, it's very great resource, and there's a lot of wonderful books here. And as you can see, because of that PDF format, it's a very easy resource to share. Now let's go back to the page again. So you notice I still have books. Now we're going to go to another type of ebook. Now this is an ebook called Ebrary. And this format is a little bit more like a traditional kind of Kindle book or ebook that many of us are used to. This is a very good resource to use. One thing I want to point out about the ebooks is that because you have over 10,000 books, their quality ranges. Some are introductory and some are in-depth. Some are what we might call pop psychology, and some are in-depth psychoanalytic works. So you, as the scholar, have to explore the value of these books. I, as a reference librarian, can point out which might be more helpful than others, but generally this is that wonderful experience that every scholar and teacher and researcher has, which is finding and digging into the resources there and to seeing what you really have that would be of great value. One thing I also want to show you is we did this quick search. You notice every one of the books that came up here has an ebook. It just shows you just how many ebooks there are. As you go through the collection now, you'll be stunned to see that we have, for example, sometimes on a page, 7 of the books will be ebooks and only 2 of the books will be traditional hardcover books. And that just gives you an indication of just how many ebooks there are. Well, now let's take a look at this one. This is, as I said, an Ebrary book. Ebrary is a kind of major database, and it's connected with ProQuest, which is our major database resource these days. So click on View Now, and this is from Ebrary, Academic Complete. And you notice it brings up a different kind of screen. This is a screen that has a lot of different options on it. And each one of these is an area of the book that you can immediately access. And this resource has a lot of different functions on it that you could choose to use. As I say, it's much more like a Kindle reader in the sense that the pages are not, they're much more in the electronic format. Now, this has a cleaner, nicer, more contemporary look than the psych books. But unlike the site books, it doesn't have individualized PDFs. If you wish to print, copy, borrow, you're going to have to do a few additional steps. So the advantage of the site books is it's very easy to use, very easy to share. The advantage of the Ebrary books is it has a much cleaner contemporary interface. Another advantage of the Ebrary books is site books has approximately, like I said, a few thousand books. Ebrary has tens and tens of thousands of books that you can access, and thousands in the area of psychology, social science, and health resources. So it is a very, very powerful resource. Generally speaking, when I'm using Ebrary, I'm generally just searching that centralized catalog. I'm not generally going into Ebrary itself to search, but later on I'm going to show you how 3 different ways to access ebooks, just in case you want to go there. One of the things I often say when I do any of this work with library materials is there are lots of different doorways to find the same resources in the library. So I'm going to try to show you different ways that you can get to where you want to go. Now, as I said, here's the essential search page there. Now there's one more type of ebook, and these are ebooks that come from very specialized databases. And in our case, this is a database called psychiatry.net, and it is the specialized database that allows us access to a really vital set of tools. And I'm going to show you this right now. As most of us know, there's a thing called the Dsm 5, which is the diagnostic tool that almost everybody uses all the time. And we actually have full ebook access to the Dsm 5. And this is a great resource. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you're in the library, on campus, off campus, doing research in a coffee shop, you can access the Dsm 5, full text. So it's a great resource. And I'm going to show you, we're going to click it right now, view now. And this is going to bring up the Dsm 5. And you could read the diagnostic codes, emerging criteria, all of this. Now I'm just going to click on the basics just to quickly show a little bit about it, and then the introduction. And the reason I want you to see this is a very different kind of ebook. Okay? It doesn't work the way the site books work or the Ebrary books work. In the first instance, the site book, it's a tool by APA. It's broken up into these actual PDFs, so each chapter of the book is a PDF. Second one, Ebrary, much more like a Kindle book. Has different functions. You can copy, print, do everything. This one, this Psychiatry Online Dsm Library of Books, and the Dsm 5, of course, is probably the essential one, but there's also, as you can see, Dsm 5 clinical cases and several others here. This doesn't work very well in terms of either downloading, printing, or sharing. This is very much more an online reference tool. Now, there is a limited capability that you could copy parts of a screen and print it, but it doesn't work too well that way. In addition, some of the reading, as you can see here, is going to be a little dense. But you have to remember one of the key points about working with a tool like the Dsm 5 is that you are more than likely going to use it the way you would use your traditional Dsm 5 manual. You're going to open it up, you're going to look into the section on anxiety, and you're going to read some of the criteria, some of the information there. You're not going to be sitting down with the Dsm 5 as a book, reading it from cover to cover. The Ebrary books, for example, the second one I described, that's a book that you might want to read an entire chapter, or maybe even 2 chapters, and you certainly have the capability. The APA book, well, the first one, which has the PDFs, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you could read a chapter, you could share a chapter, you could print off a chapter. So in each case, the books have a kind of different format and different utility, but that doesn't mean that they're not very helpful. So with the DSM-5, I would like to explain to people to say, think of it as a literally a virtual replication of the traditional print manual, and you would use it as the print manual. In essence, you're going to read certain sections. You're going to look up certain criteria. You're not going to be reading it page to page. I do want to also point out one hidden tool and wonderful thing that's in this DSM-5 library that very few people ever seem to look at. If you go up here to books, all these wonderful books here are available, and some of them are just outstanding books in the field of psychology and psychiatry. So it's a wonderful resource. So it's not just for the DSM-5. There's some other really good stuff in there too. So those are the 3 types of books, and I just want to kind of reemphasize that each one of them has its own utility. Each one of them has its own strengths and weaknesses. And so when you're searching and you find a book and you get into it and you might say, well, I wish this was more like the APA PDF format, or I wish this was different, or I wish that was different. I fully understand that, but you have to remember that each of these types of books are provided by individual vendors and individual authors and publishers and a variety of other things. And so we use the formats that are provided to us by the vendors, and so we have to work within those. But even within those restrictions, each of these tools are extremely valuable. I did want to pause for a second before I go to the next section to see if there are any questions or concerns or things you'd like me to repeat.
Hi, Oliver. Thanks. It's Paula. There's no questions posted, but I had a couple questions.
Okay, you can ask.
Thanks. So are textbooks sometimes ebooks?
Well, that is an excellent question. Yes, they are. Currently, for example, we have almost, in our books that are required this semester here, we have, I think, 18 of the 100 books that are required are ebooks, and they are fully accessible. And now first, number one, the DSM-5 manual is, in point of fact, required by many classes. But I did want to show a book that is used all the time in many, many courses. And that is a wonderful ebook. And there it is, Clinical Interviewing by Summers Flanagan. This book has been used perennially, and it is fully available here. So the one thing I would say is for every student, before you buy your books, if your wonderful librarian has not mentioned to you whether this might be an ebook or not, why don't you take a look in the online catalog and maybe you'll find an ebook. Now, I do want to make a point here that comes up all the time. Some people, whether they are old or young, some people like ebooks and some people don't. I have students here who are, in their early 20s, and they say, I want a traditional book. I don't care that you have the ebook. I want the book. So I often tell the students, it's your choice. But if an ebook will meet your academic needs, why not save a little money by using it?
I agree. Thank you. Continuing with my questions. So,
Oh, sure.
do all students have access to every ebook available at the school, or only those within their program?
You have access to every single ebook at the school.
Oh,
Every single.
nice.
And now the one thing, I'm going to tell you some things I shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So, because I like to tell people things. The interesting thing about the APA books is if you were kind of crazy, you actually could recreate the book. You could print each PDF and reassemble in paper format a book. You know, now I don't recommend doing that because it seems rather strange to turn a ebook into a paper book, but but I have had students who've actually printed out 2 or 3 chapters from an APA book because they say, I just like paper. So you can do that. But every student does have access, and you have access 24 hours a day, and wherever you are. I know this for a fact because I once was doing some shopping at my grocery store, and a student we had an ebook, and I was literally buying lettuce and tomatoes, and I went into the catalog on my iPhone, found an ebook, and I said, and then I sent the message back and said, yes, there's an ebook, full text format, you can read it. And they said, thank you. So it is available all the time. And the nice thing is, oh, by the way, in case anybody wants to know, because I was going quickly through, what is a psych book, what is a Ebrary book, what is the DSM-5. If you look at the publisher, if it doesn't say the American Psychological Association, then it's not a psych book. I already know that that would be an Ebrary book, and I already know what format it is because you can see it's John Wiley. But you also notice that there's a bunch of books here, once again, that are very nice books that are Ebrary books. And the nice thing about this process is if you do search, you may find, as I said, maybe 2 or 3 or maybe even 6 or 7 of the 15 books that are required for a semester may be ebooks. And if you like ebooks and can work with the ebook format, you may be saving yourself an awful lot of money.
Thank you, Oliver. Man, I'm getting questions pouring in here now, but still mine first. Now, do students have access to the ebooks even after they graduate?
Now, that's a good question. It is limited by the fact whether you join our alumni organization or not. And we have an active alumni program. If you do, you would be able to have some access to the ebooks, yes, once you graduate. And as an alumni, you could certainly visit campus and use ebooks also. So it depends on what your status is. Your access to the ebooks after you graduate would probably end after a little while. Now, I'll tell you once again something I shouldn't tell you, but okay, I'll go ahead. Is if you're a member of APA, you would be able to go into the APA databases if you sign in, and even after you graduate, even if you had no affiliation with us, you would be able to use those psych books. So that's a very valuable tool for anyone who continues to work in the field. I think also another thing I'd point out about these ebooks is that as more and more of our books are published in e-format, you will notice that fewer and fewer books around even our campuses and around the country, fewer and fewer library books are actually going to be hardcover books in the stacks. I do want to also point out something that I get a question almost immediately after I say that. There are lots and lots and lots of books that are not published in e-format. The publishers and the authors have decided they don't want to do that. Also, some books are published in what's called limited e-format. That means you could buy e-access as an individual, or the campus can buy e-access. You can download the book one time, and that's the end of access. In essence, you can't share it in a database like we have here. So the publishers and the authors really have the power in this format. The ebooks that you're seeing here are ones that we license through a vendor, and the vendor has licensed through publishers and authors, so they're constantly growing. And the number of ebooks is constantly growing, but it's never going to be every book by every author in every circumstance.
That's a good point, Oliver, because I believe some authors just won't allow their books to be online. That was my understanding.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions here, one from Larissa. If a specific book that you are looking for is not available in the online database by ebook or hard copy, can it be requested?
You can request it, but if you if the book is I assume that you need this for research purposes. That's a case where you would be doing interlibrary loan. In essence, the ebook format it's not a timely format for getting new books added to the catalog to share with everyone, if you know what I mean. Because if you need a research book and you need it in the next 10 days, requesting the librarian to go out and buy the ebook and then maybe work with the vendor and then work with all the systems and all to get it put up in the catalog, that might take weeks. And the truth is the vendor may not permit the book to be put on a shared database. So if you just need an individual book for individual research needs, you should probably request it by interlibrary loan and see if we can get it for you. If we can't get it for you through interlibrary loan for some reason or other, and sometimes we can't, then at the very last option is, I would say, you might have to go out and buy it or consider other options. But first, see if you can get it through ebooks and our catalog and libraries. Then let's see if we can get it through interlibrary loan. And then lastly, buy the book.
Thank you, Oliver. I have a question from Mike. Oh, here, great. Thank you so much. That's from Larissa. And Mike is asking, I have to travel frequently, and I was wondering if there is any accessibility to audiobooks.
Not really, although another strange thing is about the APA, the Psychbook database. Some of their books actually have a reading capability. Not too many, but some of them do. But I would have to tell you it's extremely robotic. If you don't mind, I will do a parody of it. It reads like, when analysis is done on the clinical interviewing process, you may find it difficult. So it's not exactly the most innovative reading. So our audiobooks are somewhat limited. Some of the publishers are beginning to experiment with those formats, but a lot of them have not really gone too far with that. So, but there are some publishers, and I do know Amazon does offer some audiobooks. They tend to be more in the self-help and kind of introductory areas, but you never know what you might find if you keep looking around. The ebooks we have right now, several of them can work with those e-readers that have been developed for people with special needs and other things, but it's really not something they're currently offering. I think you can imagine 5-10 years down the line that's something they will be offering, because just keep developing more and more wonderful tools and interfaces. But right now, it's not something they're offering too much.
Thank you, Oliver. You know, Mike, you could always take somebody with you who could read to you. So, you know, if you're traveling to fun places, let me know. Can you download books for later use without having to sign in? So, for example, if I downloaded a chapter of an ebook and wanted to open it later, does it require you to sign in order to view it, or is it my chapter forever?
It depends. It depends. Once again, I'm going to tell you a secret I shouldn't. We're full of secrets today. That's one of the great things about the APA books, okay? Every chapter is a PDF. And guess what? If you want to store those PDFs someplace, you can. And so you could say, hey, here I have all 10 PDFs of a book, like the book I was showing you, Treatments of Work with Children. I have all 10 PDFs, and anytime I want to look at one of those PDFs, I click on it, and there it is. Now, with these Ebrary books, you can actually save the link to the Ebrary book. I'm going to click on it again. Okay. See this link up here? You can save that and then store that, and then as a person, you just click, you know, have the link, and then all you have to do is sign in on your with your username and password, and you have access to the book. So what I do when I want to share things with faculty members, I actually store those links, and then I'll embed them in an email, and I'll say, here's 3 links to these 3 books. Whenever you want to look at them, just look at them. So the APA book, you can store the PDFs anytime you want. The Ebrary books, you can share the link to the database. The DSM-5, it's pretty much the same thing, although with the DSM-5 you're actually just linking into the Psychiatry Online database, so it kind of doesn't work quite as well. I think you've gotten a sense that the DSM-5 Psychiatry Online database is a lot more restrictive because they know they have a really, really valuable tool, and so they limit its, not its utility, but they limit its access, ease of access to some degree, which is quite understandable given the value of product.
Great, thank you, Oliver. That's all the questions for right now.
Okay, well, those were great questions, and thank you for coming up with them. Now I want to show you a couple of other things that are fun. These are how to access the books, and I like to show people this because in a way it helps you think about the books themselves and different ways to look at them. Now, I like this centralized search box, but it does confuse some people sometimes. So I do tell people, if you're finding a little confusing, it's too much, you don't figure out what all these things are, it can be confusing. For example, if you accidentally click everything instead of books, I hate to tell you, you're going to come up with pages and pages and pages, and you're never going to get to the clinical interviewing book that we were just looking at. You have to be, this is so robust, you have to be careful how you use it. So sometimes I use this option up here, Find Books, Media, and Articles. Now if you want to find the DSM-5 and you want to just say, gee, where's a good way to remember where it is? If you find books, there it is, right there on the side. A nice beautiful purple icon. And it also allows you, gives you a really great link to Psychiatry Online. One of the listeners asked the question, what do I do if I can't find a book? Well, we librarians like to always do the obvious, so we put up a tag here. It says, can't find a book? This is where you sign in for Iliad or interlibrary loan. And so that's where, if you can't find a book through our catalogs, you could request it through Iliad, and you can see if we can get it for you. I generally can tell you as a rule of thumb that most books published by the leading publishers you're going to be able to find through interlibrary loan if we don't already have access. But there are some very specialized books that you might not be able to find through interlibrary loan. But that would really depend on a book that is very old, maybe a German psychoanalytic book that was published in the 1930s. You might have difficulty. A book that had extremely limited publication, published in Canada in the 1990s, we might have trouble getting that. But most books published by most leading publishers, if we don't have it in our libraries in physical copy or e-copy, you're basically going to be able to get it through interlibrary loan. And if you can't get the whole book, you can certainly maybe get chapters from the book. So it's actually a really great tool that augments. So anyway, I just wanted to quickly show you that you can access the DSM-5 just by going through this Find Books method. If we go back, there's another thing that is really useful. So if you say, gee, how do I get to ebooks? I don't really remember. If you go up here and go to Find All Databases A to Z, and click on it, guess what? We have our ebook collections right here, and you notice there's a bunch of ebook collections, one of which is, of course, our good old friend, Psych Books. So the Psych Books I was describing earlier, you can easily access right through here. And the Ebrary collections that I was discussing earlier, you can access right here. So in point of fact, if you actually said, I don't want to use that centralized search box, it's too confusing to me. I would just want to see what Ebrary books exist, or I want to see what Psych books exist. You could take a look. And just for the sake of showing you the difference, oh, by the way, here's Psych Books. This is a nice description. It says, oh, they have over 2,500 books now. I said it was well over 2,000, but over 2,500 books. And each book is divided by a chapter. So there are 38,000 chapters now in PDF format. So let's take a quick look here. And you notice there's a nice search box. And you can easily search here for any topic you want. Let's say depression studies. And you notice we have 505 results. That means there's 505 chapters from books that are on the topic of depression. And you can see different ones. One thing I do want to caution you, though, when you get into this database, when you're actually in Psych Books, if you notice, let me look very carefully at this for you, because this one says work-related anxiety and depression. See the author's name, Bowman, counseling and psychotherapy of work dysfunctions. What that means is that this is a chapter, work-related anxiety and depression, from a book called Counseling and Psychotherapy of Work Dysfunctions. So you can actually see that each of those chapters are broken into dozens and dozens. Each of those books are broken into a dozen or more chapters. So there's different ways, like I said earlier, of finding your information. Now, if you just want to find the ebook as a whole, that centralized search box is a really good way to use. If you just want to find chapters from a variety of books on the topics you're interested in, using this page you see right here is an absolutely wonderful tool, because as you can see, there's 505 results, and many of them are very recent books. This little demarcator over here, which is the date range, indicates that we have a ton of material, 163 records, 114 records, all from the last 2 decades. So there's a ton of material, ton of chapters on depression available here. And each one of these has that wonderful APA quality that you can look at the PDF, you can get the citation for the individual chapter, you can email this to your friends, you can copy the citation, you can do anything you want. So this is a way of getting, to be honest with you, 5, 6, 7, 8 wonderful chapters from 5 or 6 different books just by doing a very quick search right here. And for those folks who like the old-fashioned, you can print each of these chapters if you want. So it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. The Ebrary collection is available, and if you click on that, you'll be able to see a wide variety of books. Now you notice when you go into the Ebrary collection, as I said to you earlier, it has books on all kinds of things. Well, if you notice, psychology is only one of the many topics we have. So Ebrary is filled with tens and tens of thousands of books, but many, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 of them are in the field of psychology, and many are also in the field of health sciences and social services and social sciences. So there's a lot of material in Ebrary. But Ebrary, when you do a search in Ebrary, especially if you use the database right here from this portal, you may find it a little confusing because there's going to be books that are about law, religion, social sciences that are closely related to psychological topics but are not the actual psychology books that we might normally see. So pretty much I'm finished with my basic presentation. So I just wanted to go over quickly to show you that this is the centralized search box, but you can also go over here. If you go to find books, you can find your good old friend, the DSM-5 manual. And if you go here to all databases from A to Z, you can find these ebook collections. And there's the psych books I described, which was the first option. And we can also find Ebrary. So that's pretty much the end of the presentation. Are there any more questions or concerns or things you'd like me to go over?
Hi, Oliver. It's Paula. Thank you. I don't have any questions sitting in the question box at this point. So if anybody has any final questions or comments, please go ahead and type them in. Some excellent information, Oliver, and I certainly hope that the ebooks do continue to increase. I find them quite useful, especially when you do only want a portion of the book. So it's nice to be able to search by topic and come up with specific chapters on that topic.
That's one of the advantages of the psych books database that I was showing in this area, that when you look there, you could find a wide variety of books, say, on depression therapy, that so like 8 chapters from 6 books on depression therapy, rather than when you use a search here in this area, you may be bringing up a book that has depression as a major topic, but 5 or 6 of those chapters in the book have nothing to do with the kind of depression therapy you're looking for. So sometimes that's why I like to show people different ways to get to knowledge, because there are times when that search box is a really good tool, and there's times when this option is a very good tool. So each of us uses different ways to get to different things.
Excellent. A couple of comments, one from Ben. Thank you so much. This presentation was very informative.
Oh, thank you.
And another one from Larissa. Thank you, Oliver. Great presentation. Very helpful as a new adjunct learning the system.
Oh, well, it's much appreciated. And in case anybody's interested, Oliver Cutshaw, who is me, who is I guess, I have a book which is listed in our catalog, and it is not an ebook. So I wrote a book a few years ago on librarianship, and if you look in here, my book is in the traditional format, a print book, but it's not an ebook. So I often tell students that if you want to buy Oliver's book, you're going to have to go purchase it in the traditional manner. But actually, luckily here on our campus in LA, we actually own a copy of my book, and if anybody wants to read it can do so. But that's not a commercial for my book because it's primarily...
I was just going to say it was not a commercial break.
It's I don't want to become one of those celebrities pushing their books out. This is a book primarily about librarianship, but the only reason I often bring the book up is I do actually mention the TCS school and how I came here after my experience at Harvard. So, so occasionally I do talk about it. But I also bring it up as the fact that when we often talk about our ebooks and print books, it's always a little strange because I wrote that book completely on computer, completely digitally. Then it was published in book format. And recently when I went online, I noticed that it's now available in some ebook formats. So in point of fact, a book that I wrote in E was printed in analog, traditional, hardcover, and is now being turned into an ebook. So it just shows you how fluid information is these days.
Yes, exactly. I do have a question. Can you please show us the link or location of the Ebrary again, please?
Oh, sure. You just go here, find books, media, articles, go down to all databases from A to Z, and that brings up the ebook collection. That's the first option. There's many good options here, by the way, but that's the first option, and you notice that Ebrary is the very first one. And part of the reason it's the first one is it's the most robust one.
Great.
So it has the most options.
Thank you, Oliver.
Well, thank you. It's been very nice talking to everyone, and you all asked a lot of very good questions, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for participating in our webinar tonight, and I would like to have a special shout out to Professor Ellen Grant, who always arranges these webinars. So Ellen, thank you so much once again finding us a great speaker with a great topic. Judith says thanks, and Phyllis says thanks you all. I think this was another successful library webinar. Everybody have a good evening and make sure you get back to studying.
Well, take care, you all.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Paula.
You're
Thank you, Oliver. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.